the laptop is back. The laptop is back. There were so many things in this episode that really drew me back to previous series. And I know, obviously, you've got like the Jackie Laverty connection and the Tony Gates and everything, but just really small things. Like as soon as you got that laptop out, I'd completely forgotten about, like, you know, when everyone lost their shit, didn't they? When they thought Ted was the person inputting, you know, like, was the other person on the other end? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh,
I'd completely forgotten about that. But now it's back.
You're in control now.
All under control now. That's what they said.
I said you're in control now.
I thought it says all. It said you, all under control now. And you would be Joe Davison.
Right. Oh.
And then it was unknown user ... because they're typing. So, you know.
Okay, all under control now. I'm not sure how we're going to start recapping this because there is so much going on.
At the beginning, I nearly said to you, can we pause and go back? I don't know who they're going on about. Who is Deborah Devereaux and what does she have to do with anything?
I have no idea either.
How we got to that. So
I think Deborah Devereaux is the witness to the pub fight that we saw at the start of the episode.
What's the pub fight?
So there was an argument in the pub between the Chiz, the long-haired guy, and they were indicating it was Carl Banks.
Right, because they're trying to find a connection between those two.
But she indicated that it was Terry. It was someone who was learning disabled.
Well, she didn't say. She said someone different,
yes.
Didn't she? And then there was this whole thing. Yeah, okay. I get that, but I don't know where this fight in the pub came from.
This was mentioned earlier that the Chiz had been having an argument in a pub before he was found.
Right, now, yes.
This was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. See, this is like the first 3 minutes, isn't it? And I was confused. But it's the beauty of the show is I love the fact that I've got to try and keep up with it. So anyway, you've got Deborah, who is a very unconvincing witness. I nearly said to you, she's a really bad actress. because what she was saying all around that about saying, oh, he was different, and they would do the different, and they play around with that.
Yeah.
Just didn't ring true. There was this really sort of. There was a line afterwards where she was almost like apologising for using inappropriate language, but it just didn't ring right. The way she was saying it didn't ring true.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's quite clunky acting, but clearly it's really good acting because it's her acting really
badly.
well, that really bad. Yeah, all of that. So anyway, she pops in and Fake Dot takes her statement.
She indicates that it's Terry, so they bring Terry in for questioning. And Terry refuses to answer questions and then comes out with the other guy, he did it.
Because first of all, Ryan is beforehand, the PC is saying, oh, he uses the word mate, I'm still your best mate, and
which is what he did last season when he was cuckooing, as we now know.
Yeah, we now know what cuckooing means. Having seen it from series 1, we now have the full term.
Yes.
So I found that interview really difficult to watch. I felt there was so much in there about how you interview vulnerable suspects.
And it goes back to Brendan from Making a Murderer.
Yeah, you said that a couple of episodes ago, didn't you?
Yeah.
You said that you really felt that there was when you watch things in real life where people who clearly need a lot more support and who perhaps aren't able to follow the way that the police are putting things across to them. It's a very clinical way of speaking. Actually, I found that Kate, put my teeth in, did a really good job in being a good police officer, in coming back and taking what Joe was saying and putting it in language that is understandable. Because what Joe was saying, I was thinking, God, I would find that really difficult to follow this clinical, I would call them witness A, I would do this. And Kate was doing a really good job in making sure that the person across the table knew what was being asked of them. But it's difficult, it is really difficult to watch.
Absolutely. And then, which leads us to the big action set piece of the week. Terry's being driven to a safe location by Lisa. Did we know Lisa from before? We barely knew ye. with Ryan in the back.
Yeah.
Ryan.
Never let him sit behind you in the car.
Ryan says, "Oh yeah, we've changed the route home just to mix it up a bit, past the dark, cold reservoir with no streetlights and no witnesses." Lisa wasn't a detective, was she?
No, but you know what? Neither am I, because when he asked for the window to be wound down, I was like, "What's gonna happen?" I knew something was gonna happen.
I didn't know what was going to happen, but
why does he need the window down? That was the thing. I was like, is that like a signal to someone? Was my first port of call. Like, he's gonna signal that this is the police car, that they're gonna. You know, like in previous series, they've stopped cars and they've dragged people out, and then he might have been beaten up.
Yeah.
And that would have been his cover story. And then they've taken Terry, and we don't know where Terry's gone. I had no idea that the car would end up in the reservoir, nor that Lisa would like die when she pops back up again, like one of those barrels from Jaws. You know, and she pops back up, and you're like, yeah, she's alive, right? Great. And then you see Kate in the disc. Kate, who's being the best police officer ever. This episode's a really good Kate episode, I think. She's following him along, doing her like proper undercover officer. I'm going to check on what's going on here, and she sees them in the water.
Yes.
And I honestly thought, oh, she's seen him, and maybe he'll get away with saying, oh, I was like wrangling with her, but I didn't think he would kill her.
Well, I think that was going to be the case.
Well, it has to be, I suppose, in hindsight.
Ties in with a thing we missed, mistakes we knew we were making last week.
Oh, yes, yeah.
We missed, and it was probably more an Easter egg in the background, but Kate was looking up about Ryan on her PC. Thanks to Dave, for fan of the show, for tagging us into websites showing this information. I mean, for me, it's not that big a deal, because who hasn't Googled a new co-worker? We all do it.
New colleague comes along.
Yeah.
A quick look.
That name's going in Google straight away.
Where they're from.
Yeah.
What's the background?
Find them on LinkedIn, see what they've been doing. See, look, a quick scan through the Facebook profile. Hope it's not too logged down. I'm sharing a bit too much.
Yeah, it was all over Twitter, wasn't it? After the event, that people have been screenshotting Kate being the best AC-12 officer who's not in AC-12 at the moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, she was on to Ryan, and she's absolutely on to him now. It's just a shame that she was stuck, indicating for so long. It's always the way.
Needs to be more aggressive. It's like you. It's like you pulling out in the morning.
I was just thinking that. Just do it. Just do it. It's fine.
Put the blues and twos on.
I was thinking that as well, but then of course
you don't want to alert.
You don't want to alert him. And then Terry pops up as well, and because I thought, oh well, Terry's gone, that's it. But he's got to eliminate Lisa because she knows that he caused the incident.
Yes.
But when Terry pops up, I thought, oh wow, he is too late by this point because Kate's there. She's called it in. We know that Terry won't necessarily come out with, oh, he's trying to drown me, and you could still. He was asleep, wasn't he? So I suppose he doesn't
know what happened.
That his, in inverted commas, best mate has caused this accident. He probably thinks that he's saved him.
Do you think when he says the other guy, he did it, he's talking about Ryan?
I genuinely don't know. At one point I thought we were mishearing. You know how Mercurio likes to pull the wool over our eyes, and with the whole H thing, and Dot doing the numbers and with his hands. I'm doing Morse code hands now, which is really bad. I thought he might have said like Ian did it or something like that. I thought I was mishearing, but I don't think that's the case. I'm so like into it now.
Isn't Buckles' first name Ian?
Well, that's what I was thinking.
I don't think that.
And that's where I thought the connection, but
I think that's too much of a stretch.
I don't think it has. The fact that Buckles is going around with golf clubs over his shoulders is just, I mean, it's proper buying into.
I kind of hope he next week he's in +4s and a little Tam O'Shanter cap. Totally. Carrying some clubs over his shoulder.
With maybe Dot's face on the actual, the club bag.
Yeah,
I haven't got a good caddy.
Car's not working, so I've got this little golf cart just to drive me around. Yeah.
Yeah, so, poor Terry. He's proper in the wars at the moment, isn't he? People have been taking over his flat for years. He's had a dead body in his freezer, and now his, in inverted commas, best mate's trying to drown him. So
Kate goes to AC-12.
Yes.
Awkward reunion with Ted.
Yeah, and I was still clinging on to the idea that he was going to go, right, Kate, what have you been doing? You know, sort of like as if she definitely was undercover. But I'm losing that thread now. I don't think she is undercover anymore.
I don't know. I think there's still some looks that indicate that there's still some connection
like some
there.
nods and
Yeah,
some, yeah. It's hanging by a thread for me now, I think.
Do you know what I do think is up to no good? And this is something that everyone has said apart from us.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you think it's Chloe?
Yeah.
Because she's too good.
Did you see her looming in the background when Steve was...
I did, but I thought that was indicative of that thing where someone comes back into like the job they used to be in. You're the new person, and you can see the relationship between your co-worker and their previous, you know. And I thought it was more of a looming, I wish I had the relationship with Steve that Kate has, sort of thing. That's what I saw it as.
Okay.
You know, especially the thing about, I really want a takeaway. And I was sort of thinking that she was just sat in the back going, you never asked me for a takeaway. Not in like a romantic way, more in a like really good mates that work together.
Yeah, okay. I think it was more pointed than that.
Okay, interesting. I didn't pick up on that at all. But she's so good. And I don't feel that she's getting any real time with like Steve to create a like a relationship, you know, like to a working relationship, or with Ted. She just seems to sort of be there all the time, but we're not really getting to know anything about her.
I'm still saying she's dead by the end of episode 4.
Exactly, absolutely. I thought the scene where Kate comes back into AC12 was really beautifully rendered. There was this lovely feel of when you return to a place that's meant like a great deal to you, and there's often those workplaces where you have moved on, but you've got so many memories of like really good times of late nights, and like, you know, Steve says getting the takeaway and zooming off and being, you know, going off this way and that way, and just that real sense of coming back somewhere that's meant a great deal to you and reliving that just for a moment and thinking, you know, what could have been. I thought acting of all three of them, but in particular Vicky McClure, was just really beautiful and very subtle. That bit where she's just in the lift and she's, you know, going down in the lift, and I really felt that sense of returning somewhere and then leaving again.
Okay.
Yeah, but I thought it was really lovely done.
I totally agree. I mean, it's beautifully pitched and it's just at the right level. Anyway, moving on because we've got so much to cover.
Yeah, go.
So Steve has the fastest database known to man, or filing system, and managed to pick out a file which is Ryan's young picture.
It's the best scene. We turned to each other, didn't we, and said, this is for the people who maybe haven't been following it with quite the, you know, maybe they've just popped into series 6, or they've missed out a few, because you have Ryan's biggest picture known to mankind with everything that he's ever done on the screen, but also then Tony Gates, Lenny James, his picture pops up with the stamp of deceased over the top, just to remind you that he's dead.
Went off to do The Walking Dead, didn't they?
Well, yeah, and now, you know, amazing writer of Save Me and Save Me Too.
Of course, yeah. This plot... So, Kate interviews Ryan. You can tell that he's lying. It's just... This all seems a bit too convenient at the minute.
Okay.
And as she's interviewing him, we get Joe looking through the window. We get shots of like looking at Buckles through the window. But the upshot of this is Ryan is commended for his role in saving Terry. They do an investigation into the witness and find that she previously worked with Buckles. She was previously investigated by Buckles, and there was some background there. She has a connection. Buckles is then, we don't see anything in between this, but Buckles is then turned into AC12 in handcuffs.
Because Joe does a turn where she then says to Kate, because Kate's found all of this out.
Yes.
She then says to Kate, that's why I've brought you on board. I'm trying to root out corruption, essentially. I've been onto Buckles from the start. He did the CCTV thing wrong, didn't he, at the beginning? Not CCTV, but, you know, when they're doing surveillance, that's it.
Yeah, he did it.
He did the wrong type of surveillance.
Yeah.
He did something else wrong that I can't remember. And now this has happened. And then they say that they find the missing files, the Gail Vella files, in his car as well.
But we never see that.
Yeah. So then he's handed in, and typically at this point we would see an interview, an AC12 interview of Buckles. But I looked at the clock and it was 5:02. I'm thinking, there's no way we're getting an interview here.
I wonder if that's next week. Is it 6 episodes, this?
You know what? I don't know.
Okay, that's interesting. Because there's a hell of a lot left to happen, isn't there?
And it's not. I think Buckles might have something to do with something, but this isn't him, because then you're getting
7 episodes.
Oh, there's
so
7. No,
yeah.
you looked up. Because those fleeting, sorry, not fleeting, those lingering, it's complete opposite of fleeting, those lingering shots of Jo being in her house doing the lockup,
Yeah.
you know, getting the big lock.
Yes.
And I noticed now she's also got cameras next to the locks as well, and so she can see outside, and sitting in that house/flat with the beautiful blue paint, which I would really like to have in this house. So she's sitting there looking out into the distance and then looking at her laptop as well.
Sending an iron to Ted.
Yeah.
Stroke. H. Stroke. Any of the superiors that told Ted off this episode.
That was the other thing as well. They said Buckles had brought Pilkington in. So maybe there is something there.
Yeah.
Maybe
Said he
there
was a
is
family
something,
friend.
I just don't know how she I just don't get it. I don't get how she sort of... That's the whole point. I just don't know how she gets into... What is she doing? Why does she fit in? I just don't know. Do you know? Have you got... Well,
No,
obviously you don't know.
No, I don't. Yes, yeah,
But
yeah. Hi,
have
my
any-
real name's Jed, and
do you have any ideas?
no, I don't. I feel if I theorise something, it's only going to be disproved in a couple of weeks anyway. So yeah, I think she is going far too deep. I think she is good at heart, but I think she's going far too deep within playing the system. So she has an in the OCG. That would be my theory if I had to pick it now. She's been played out too much to be the bad guy.
She's at one point you see her look really quite distressed when you find out that Farida has had her wrist broken
Yeah,
in prison.
which we'll come to.
Yeah. And there's not a steeliness. You can really see that she sort of feels aggrieved by this. That's something that she might not have necessarily made that happen. That was my
Yes.
take on it. Did you think the
Yeah.
same thing?
Yeah, I think she clearly has feelings for Frida, despite throwing her under the bus, and we suspect planting some mobile phones. I thought last year that who was the one that Ted was intimate with?
Oh, Jill.
I thought Jill was too obvious.
Bigelow.
Yeah, Jill Bigelow. Jill Bigelow.
Amazing how I can remember stuff like this, and yet not what we need from the shop.
Jill Bigelow, AC12 Gigolo. I thought it was way too obvious last season that Jill was in on the. It was.
Well, she was just, yeah. She
Yeah.
was a baddie from the start, wasn't she?
And yeah, she was. So, although not important enough that the OCG would respond to her.
Her message.
Yes.
She did not get a response to her urgent exit required. Sad times for Jill.
She didn't
And
get a
also,
text from Dave.
She ends up in the end in a really, didn't she get like a battered old car, and she goes and lives in... They essentially set it up that she's gone from someone who's got a lot of money and is probably living the high life to someone who isn't, and she's set up somewhere else. So she is still around. She doesn't go to prison. She does a deal.
Okay.
So you kind of see her going into sort of like quite a tired flat.
Can we talk about the occurrences within AC12?
Yeah, go on.
So, Steph calls Ted again and reports that Steve was popping pills round her house like there's no tomorrow.
Well, we don't hear her say that.
No, but that's what happened because she admits to it later on.
Yeah, but you don't hear her put it in that way. I
No.
think she's saying, look, I'm just a bit worried about
Yeah,
it.
she's concerned for Steve. Ted orders a number of drug tests around the department.
See, I didn't think that was him. But obviously then that is what the show is telling us.
That is, yeah.
You know, Steve knows Ted, doesn't he? Because he then says, "Oh, the gaffers arranged the drug testing," and that came as a surprise to me. I'm really naive, and I was just like, "Oh, look, AC9 are doing random drugs testing."
Yeah, Steve goes to visit Steph, confronts her about this conversation, realises who has let on, and it does turn into a bit of a very special episode of He-Man, where she talks about the dangers of drugs and...
Oh, I wondered where you were going with that.
Yeah, so I suppose you remember He-Man cartoon.
Does he have a cat?
He does, but at
that goes into battle?
But at the very end, he will, like, after everything's tied up, he will address the audience and talk about the dangers of drugs and how you need to stay away from them.
Does he do that in every episode?
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, one of the characters will address the audience directly.
Not just about drugs, though,
No,
right?
not about drugs, like bullying, or you need to listen to your parents if you get lost. Yeah, so that's at the end of every episode, just a moral thing. It's quite common in 80s cartoons.
You said it was like a drug message at the end of every He-Man. I was like, I'm sure I don't remember that.
Drugs.
Right, I get you.
Yeah.
Green Jill.
Yeah, just say no.
Just say no.
I think Steve is still concerned about where this BT Sport subscription's coming from.
Yeah.
Questions are about the businesses she invested in.
Something about hairdressers.
Yeah, ask Chloe to investigate their joint account. Chloe comes back with something that that she finds.
Yeah, there's something in there, isn't there?
So Steve visits again, and should we say gets seduced?
I think it was very well done, actually. So she clearly likes him.
Yes.
He clearly reminds her of her husband who died.
Yeah.
It's been 18 months on. All I can see is the board with the letters in the background that I think someone will have taken, and there'll be a message in there, won't there?
Someone
right
as
now
well.
is on Twitter trying to decode the messages with the little magnetised alphabet. But, she's got the two girls who you don't see, and that's...
Ted equals hate.
And she's lonely. Welcome to my life. She's got one of those clothes horses with, like, the clothes just in the background all the time because there's nowhere to put it.
I really was worried about where you were going with that. Awful confessions.
Just clothes horses. Where do you put them? So, yeah, when Steve comes round for like the third time or something like that, and she sees a lot of her ex-husband in him, I can totally get why she would say, look, you haven't got a girlfriend, I am lonely, let's go upstairs, sort of thing. Bring your drink with you is what she says. And then I think it's a really lovely scene afterwards that they're just having a cuddle, essentially.
Yes.
And he's sort of saying it's okay to not have sex, and actually then he goes into the confession about the drugs and about how that's affected him physically.
Yeah.
So I think it's really beautifully done, actually, really subtly done.
Yeah, I get the feeling the vaccine might not be the only Pfizer medication that Steve's looking into this week.
Poor Steve. Poor Steve. We shouldn't make light of things like that.
There is help out there for him, which is very good.
Well done. There you go. This is serious face. But yeah, that is a side effect of addiction of all kinds. And you can see later on he's trying to utilise alcohol instead of the medication, but then also he then combines the medication with the alcohol, which is like
just doubling down.
No.
To be fair, it's only Bud Light.
No, it wasn't. It was a bottle of red wine.
There's a bottle of red wine and a couple of cans of Bud Light, which don't count.
I think there's 2 bottles of wine.
I've never tried the English version. The American version's awful of Bud Light.
Okay.
I thought someone was giving me watered down beer when I was in Florida, and it was just Bud Light.
What I liked about Steve was, he's about to leave the house. He's sort of creeping out the house the next morning. He's had this lovely moment with Steph where she sort of confessed she doesn't really want a romantic relationship. She's lonely, and she still loves her husband who's dead.
Just wants a cuddle time.
Yeah, she just wants a cuddle. And then he talked about his addiction to the drugs and why that came about, and he got a back injury. And then he's about to leave the house, and you're like, come on, Steve, come on. Like, you're a police officer. You've got your gloves in your pocket.
Yeah.
He's got his blue gloves. You've got to have a little look around the house and then
either preempted he was going to do this, or he's into some weird shit.
He came prepared with his rubber gloves. But yeah, he goes up in the loft. In the loft. I mean, that takes some doing. He's not just like sneaking around the kitchen cupboards.
There's nothing wrong with his back. If he can climb up that ladder.
Up those ladders, nothing wrong with him. And obviously finds the wodge of cash that Ted gave to Steph, or we're led to believe that Ted gave to Steph at the end of the last series, because we see him walking towards her with a big wodge of cash. So, yeah.
But at the end of the episode, we see another drugs test has been called.
Yeah, and he can't get away from this one. And Chloe makes some sort of offhand comments about the druggies, and, you know, sort of really, you could see that really catches him.
Yeah.
So what is going to happen to Steve? And I mean, I don't know what happens just generally, because if it's prescribed medication, surely that's okay.
Well, that's what I understand. I mean, it depends on the level. That it's indicated that he's taking more than his prescribed amount.
And maybe if he hasn't declared it, that he's on X amount of medication, because often you have to declare things. Do you know? Do you have a heart problem? Do you have epilepsy? Do you know? And you tick all the boxes, and you have to say what medication you're taking.
And I mean, the name of these painkillers are shown on screen, and I assume that they are sort of heavy duty painkillers that could affect your thinking, and
yeah, absolutely.
And he's taking large amounts of them.
Yes. Yeah, it's
Oh,
not
Steve.
I know. I was about to say it's not a paracetamol, but actually paracetamol. You know, you now have to, if you buy so many, or you're only allowed to buy so many in the supermarket or whatever, and there's like, you've got to get someone to come over and check that you're over a certain age.
Yeah. I don't
know why I'm going down this
if you
path.
do any amount. There is another plot point that involves Gail Vella's tips. I think this is a plot that certainly the BBC podcast keeps on going down. That Gail Vella, the actress that they choose to that they've hired for her, is called Andy Urso, and they keep on saying, if you were hiring that actress, you don't just have her do a few tips in the background.
Yeah, and I totally get that. And I know there was someone who was like a friend of Andy Osho who was on the BBC podcast that you're talking about, who is Craig Parkinson's hosting it at the moment, so obsessed with Line of Duty.
It was Sarah Millican on the first episode who says, "Oh, she's my mate."
She's my mate. So, but I think they are utilising her quite a lot. I think they're utilising her in terms of flashback, or not necessarily flashback, but they're showing you video footage of her, nearly like, you know, it's not just like they show it once every other episode. They're showing it every episode, and quite a few times throughout the episode as well.
She had more to do than Dot Jr.
Yeah, I know Dot Jr.'s not really done much, has he? But do you think he's just an in-joke rather than
I really hope so.
Because no one's talking about, like, oh, he's in on it, or he's just sort of there, and every time he comes on, I just smile, because he sounds so much.
Just wait till
like
he's
Craig
reading
Parkinson.
Golfing Today next week, and
he seems like a nice guy, actually. I don't think he's just I'm hoping he's just a nice police officer. That's it. Anything else?
Yeah, we need to talk about Farida.
Okay, and
So Farida is called for an interview because they feel she has more to say about Joe. She is picked up in the prison. They say, "Oh, look, we need to turn around. We need to put some handcuffs on you." And all you hear is, "Ow!"
Oh, that's a good.
Yeah.
It was a bit. You might not have watched this, but I used to watch it late at night with my grandma. Cell Block H, Prisoner Cell Block H. It really reminded me of that.
See, it reminds me of either Prison Break or remember Bad Girls?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, ITV drama, Bad Girls.
Yes.
It was like their flagship drama many moons ago.
Probably the same time that Footballers' Wives was on.
It launched a lot of people's careers as well.
Yeah, like Deborah Stevenson from Hull.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very nice. Yeah, poor Farida. She's not going to cooperate anymore, is she?
It seems unlikely. I think she's been warned now.
Yeah, that's... I don't think she's coming back with that, unless she comes back in, like, purposefully with, like, a cast round her.
Okay, you think that's her being written out of this?
Not written out. I think it might just be calling an end to that. You know, I don't think they're going to get any more out of her unless they really, really try. And it doesn't seem like they're going to go back there.
Yeah. We've got a bit of a Mexican standoff at the minute, don't we?
Between
everyone. No one trusts anyone. Ted doesn't trust Steve. Steve knows that Ted doesn't trust Steve.
I think Ted does trust him, but I think Steve's not sure what's going on with Steph and Ted.
Yeah. Kate doesn't trust Joe. Joe doesn't trust Kate. All this, neither of them trust Buckles and have
Thrown him under a bus.
thrown him under a bus. There is no way that sticks. Unless that there is a huge... Well, I mean, they're not going to find the big bad in episode 3 of the season, are they?
I don't know where this goes now. Buckles, I just can't see... Unless they just think, oh, well, that's it, that's done. And Kate thinks that's it, that's done. But I don't think that's the case. They've still got the Pilkington connection. We've still got Terry in the mix, in play. He's not, he's not gone. I think next episode things are going to really, really come together. I just get the feeling we're building to something big here.
Can I make a prediction? Kate dies in the next episode.
Oh, no. That was going to be my prediction. I was actually going to start the podcast off by going, Kate's going to die. We're totally building to that, aren't we?
We're building in the way that Jed does, because he did it with Dot, where they build up this beginning of a romance, and then one of them dies. And now they're doing it again, and she made the joke about, oh yeah, if you've got short hair. Yeah.
And the whole thing of her coming back into AC12 and Hastings giving her the nod, and it feels very much like, this is possibly the last time that she's going to be in there. And I don't know where you go with Kate's character after this anyway. Does she come back into the fold in AC12 in the next series? When actually it's clear that she really has moved on, I think.
The only way that she's been in AC12 next year is with her face on the
board.
Yeah.
And genuinely, because so many people think Kate is H, but I'm now moving to the fact that actually she's not. And she's going to die. I think she's going to die. I think that would be the big thing, wouldn't it? For him to kill one of the main 3.
And I think Ryan's going to do it.
Yeah. Right then. Episode 4, next week.
Episode 4.
Same time, same place.
Can I just mention quote of the week?
Go on then.
The name's Hastings and the epitome of an old battle.
Oh, Ted. It's been proper Ted, like a truism of Ted. You know how last series, we were all wondering what's going on with Ted. Is Ted the baddie? I don't think Ted is a baddie. I think he's got flaws. But this time round, this series, it's just been pure... Let's let's make him the most quotable figure.
Yes.
All the boxes that you want to tick with Ted. It's great. Absolutely great. Right.
Well, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
It's been a challenging one.
It has been a challenging one. Hopefully you won't be able to tell from my wonderful editing, but we've had to stop and start quite a few times tonight because someone who shall remain nameless decided that he would wake up throughout the whole of the podcast recording and tell us that he needed an urgent exit. So we've had to settle him quite a few times. So it's been a bit of a challenging podcast. So if there's been some changes in sort of like where we are in the house recording and what we're doing and how things are going, if the podcast feels a little bit ramshackle, that's because we've been entertaining a 2-year-old.
Absolutely. But thank you so much for listening. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Honeymoon Pod. And please, if you have the facility to leave a review on however you listen to the podcast, please do so because it makes us smile. I think that's it. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.